want to take you on a journey across time and space, between the ashes of a modern fire and the dusty stones of an ancient city. Several years ago, when I was serving as a pastor in Baton Rouge at Broadmoor United Methodist Church, our neighborhood and our church campus were terrorized by an arsonist. Fires swept through homes and outbuildings and part of our campus, one after the other, during the season of Lent, the very season that we are in here tonight observing. At first, it was just a terrifying headline, which was breaking at about the same time that the COVID-19 pandemic headline was breaking, until the day before Palm Sunday, when the flames reached our administrative offices and burnt them to the ground, literally. I lost everything that day. My personal belongings, my office, my library from when I was in seminary, memories, important records, sacred mementos, art from my immersion trip that I took in seminary, my global theological trip to the Holy Land, cups and plates that I had bought in Jericho, things I could never replace, letters that people had written to me throughout my entire ministry career, and the Bible that my grandfather, who was also a pastor, had written his pastoral notes out into the margins. It was all gone. Among the ashes, the thing that really hurt my heart the most to lose was my mother's lawyer's bookcase. It was the only remaining tangible link that I had left from my childhood, and that I had to remember her presence with us. I couldn't even bear to go through the broken and blackened debris, the ashes of my office. The loss felt so complete and so overwhelmingly devastated. All I could do for several days was just cry on and off. I was very, very, very sad. But then, a strange miracle. A new friend that I had just met at a weekend retreat for men called and asked me if he would mind if he touched base with my wife, and if the two of them could sift through the ashes and the charred rubble and remains of my office to see if there was anything at all that could be salvaged. And so they did meet up, and they found these 3 little charred pieces of wood, and they just happened to be fragments off of my mother's lawyer's bookcase. They just happened to be off of that. It was the only thing in my office that survived, other than maybe a sheet or two of music. What was interesting about the thing is that they were completely scorched on one side, but if you flip them over, they were perfectly stained, just like they were in the shelf of her thing. And so I couldn't believe my eyes when they showed these to me. And there was even some hardware on the wood from the original thing. And so being an artist myself, and as somebody that's just totally tormented by these kinds of moments, I saw something more in their hands than just ruined wood. Those 3 blackened little broken pieces were perfect for a cross. They fit together. Literally, there were grooves, and you could fit them in. It was unbelievable. The burn side, well, I now refer to that as my Good Friday cross. Dark, dead, saturated with pain and loss. The other side, I call it the Easter side. It's stained and nice, and it's marked by its overcoming. And, well, It was brought to new life, literally beauty born from those ashes. And now this cross, it rests with me. It rests with me as a reminder that Good Friday is not just history. Good Friday is fire on earth. Several years later, I was blessed to lead a pilgrimage that I intended to take this group, and we were going to walk the footsteps of Jesus over in the Holy Land. And I was so excited to go. And you see, as we continued that journey, a deep conviction that I hold is that pilgrimage deepens one's experience of the Holy Scriptures. Unlike anything else in the world, pilgrimage does this. And our journey was not going to end up in the Holy Land after all because of the war with Hamas and Israel. And so I ended up rerouting this whole trip to the Greek Isles, where we agreed that we would avoid the Middle East conflict and that we would go and follow in the footsteps of the Apostle Paul. And so we sailed through some of the Greek Isles off of the mainland, and we ended up in Turkey, of all places, in Ephesus. Yes, the Ephesus of the Ephesians, right? And so it was one of the great ruins of the world. Really, it was very impressive, the grandeur of those ruins. There was a gigantic open-air Colosseum, very well preserved. It sat about 25,000 people. It was very impressive to see this. And there was this gigantic stone stage where the Apostle Paul himself would have proclaimed the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. It was very, very impressive, and you could just see it in your mind's eye, how amazing that would have been. It was such an important place. I could practically hear Paul's thunderous voice reaching his generation for Jesus. But surprisingly, it was not Paul's preaching that gripped me hardest in Ephesus. It was, of all things, the men's restroom that really got me. I know. Imagine that for a moment. But you see, what was interesting about the men's restroom is they were these long stone benches, really long, probably 15, 20 feet long, stone benches. And about every 4 feet, there was a hole carved down into the stone bench, right? And that's where the men sat, did their business. I don't mean to be crass, but you can't tell this story without it. Now, when a man finished his business, the Romans, who had occupied that land like they had so much in the region, would have these slaves that would attend. Now listen, they didn't have any roof on this structure, but they did have a perimeter wall. But that's all the privacy you got. These were just lined up holes in a row. You know what I'm saying? So not a lot of privacy, and you can tell they didn't have drones back then. But they would have these slaves that would attend those restrooms. And when they were finished, the slave would take a hyssop branch and strap a sponge on the end of it, dip it into a crock of vinegar, and then clean the person that had finished their business. And then they would move on to the next person. I'm sure that was a humiliating and degrading task for a slave. I assure you it was. Now, if you're wondering why on earth is he up there, has he lost his mind telling us this story in the same breath as talking about the cross? I want you to be patient, because this is where the ancient meets the modern in the most gut-wrenching way that I could have ever imagined. Because back at the cross of Jesus Christ, only 25 years before Paul would have preached in that very place in Ephesus, Jesus, fully God, fully man, cried out from the cross, "I am thirsty." And what happened next? Something straight out of the Roman occupation, right out of the oppressive culture and the sin of our world. Do you remember what happened next? The soldiers at the cross, the Romans, responded to Jesus' thirst, not with mercy, not going up on a ladder and giving him a drink of water, but with a sponge tied on to the end of a hyssop branch, dipped in a crock of sour vinegar wine. And then they took that hyssop branch soaked in that vinegar, and they placed it on the mouth of God. I thought it was the spit that was humiliating. I thought it was the sign above Christ's head, the mockery. King of the Jews, right? I thought it was the beating and the stripping of clothes that was degrading, until I stood there in that ancient city of Ephesus, tears streaming down my face. Not because I was in a theater of a famous ruin, but because I was inside a men's restroom, picturing the horror and the humiliation of the cross made real in the vinegar and in the sponge of that moment. Here was the scandal of Good Friday laid bare. The God who created us and who chooses us, made to endure cruelty and shame and physical agony and rejection by the very world he came to save. And yet, with that bitter taste fresh on his lips, this is what I can't even fathom. Jesus turned his heart to the Father and says, forgive them. Can you imagine that? The Savior nailed to wood, bruised, mocked, hungry, thirsty, forsaken, prays for forgiveness for those who caused him pain. This love, this forgiveness, this surrender, friends, it's not a distant story. It is the grit and the grace that meets us right here and right now, today, in this space, in our broken places, our burnt hopes, our ashes, our sorrows.
I heard the singing earlier. Were you there? I was there. I was there at the cross. Where else would I be? I loved him since before he was born. I have accepted that he is special and different. I pondered all these things in my heart, often wondering where it would all end. But I never pictured this. Now, I still have this glimmer of hope that it won't end this way. Now, yes, you've guessed by now, I am Mary, the mother of Jesus. I watched a few years ago as he chose his disciples and began his ministry. He loved them so much. And I love them all too. All my son's friends, right? I wanted to keep him all to myself. I did, but I knew God had other plans. Once submitting to God's will for me, I had to surrender to God's will for my son. And I think that was harder. It's becoming harder, for sure. But I have to tell you, even understanding that, I felt deeply every rejection of my son through the years. They aren't all here at the cross. Judas betrayed him and is gone. Peter denied him not once, not twice, but 3 times, even though he had been warned it would happen ahead of time. Peter, Peter, he wasn't afraid of anything. Why isn't he here? I don't understand that. The only one of his 12 that is here at the foot of the cross is John. John called himself, you remember this? He called himself the one that Jesus loved. I don't mean to laugh, but he just didn't understand, did he, that Jesus loved everyone like that. He didn't get it, but it mattered to him that Jesus loved him, and he's here. He's here. The women are here too, even the other Marys, and they give me comfort. They do give me some small comfort even at this site before me, here at the base of this cross. And it's so dark. It's so dark. It feels like it's nighttime, and it's the middle of the day. The sky is so dark. It's like as if the sky is grieving with me. Somehow, the sky and all creation is groaning with me. But here's Jesus, bleeding on the cross, hanging there. What pain he feels in his body. How can he endure it? How can he go on? How can he endure this? I'm his mother, and I would take this pain from him if I could. If only I could, I would do it. I used to, when he was little, somehow comfort him. My heart is breaking. The pain, the physical pain, yes, but the humiliation that he's endured already, treating him in such a degrading way. I feel the evil swirling around us, the evil that's doing this to him. And yet, as we stand here hours and hours, as he hangs there, he is so quiet, almost all the time. Oh, I hear a moan or a groan, and I lean closer, I raise up, is he gonna say something? And he does every now and then. He says something. How can he endure this pain any longer? How can this go on? How? I'm rooted to this spot. If I could reach him, I would wipe his face of the blood and the sweat. I would whisper words of comfort and love. I hope he knows how much I love him. I hope he knows. Even if John left, even if the other women left, I cannot leave him. He will be leaving me soon enough. I feel it in my bones. I am so afraid, but I cannot leave. Oh, I don't care what happens to me. I'm afraid for him. Silently, I cry out to God. Are you here, God? Are you seeing what they're doing to him? No, I cannot bear this pain. Then his eyes look directly at me. He says to me with such love, Mother, behold your son. And to John, behold your mother. Fresh tears fill my eyes. I feel John's hand on my shoulder. Jesus is thinking of me as I am focused on him. How can he think of me and my welfare, my future, while he is being tortured? I'll be honest with you, I cannot see a future without him. I am weak. I am very weak. I want to take him off that cross. If I could snap my fingers and take him off, I would. I would this instant. I want to scream out to God, to these cruel, hateful men, stop! Just stop. And yet, I can't explain it, but I feel a check. I feel something in my spirit saying, hold on, hold on. What he accepts, I must accept. What he accepts, I must accept. But can I? How? How can I accept the unacceptable? And when I have those thoughts, I feel hate. I hate coming up within me for these persecutors that are continually parading him. And then I hear these words from him, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I'm here at the foot of the cross. And eventually, I witness his last breath. A gasp and last words. It is finished.